This is the Extra Point Podcast. During this podcast, we will dive deeper into our Sunday teaching and share practical next steps for your faith journey. Now, let's kick off the Extra Point.
Hey, welcome to the Extra Point. I'm Cheryl Ross, the Next Steps and Discipleship Pastor here at Southridge Church, and I'm with Scott Beha, our lead pastor. And before we dive any deeper, I want to make sure that if you haven't liked or subscribed to this podcast, that you go ahead and do so. That way you don't miss out on any new content. Well, this past Sunday, we kicked off a brand new series called The Adventures of Selfish and Stupid, the trilogy, because this is the third time around that we are doing this relationship series. And I think some people maybe at the very beginning were like, oh, relationship series, it's just going to be on marriage. But you kicked off this series with a really fantastic concept and illustration to help us understand that healthy relationships begin with healthy people, and that's all relationships across the board, right? Not just marriage, but friendships, working relationships, family dynamics, all of that really require healthy people. Yep. But that health goes a little bit deeper than what we might think of in normal terms. So Pastor Scott, would you just kick us off and briefly share about really what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I started by talking about, I let ChatGPT tell me what is required for a healthy relationship. And then I let my Facebook friends do the same thing. And it was, I knew that it was going to happen that way. Everything that was listed always involved another person, which meant that when we think about healthy relationships, we automatically jump to the person that we're in relationships with, and we skip over ourselves, which is amazing that Jesus talked about that 2,000 years ago. Like, hey, you're going to have a propensity in relationships to focus on the other person, but the person that you need to first and foremost focus on is you. Like Jesus knew it 2,000 years ago, and even ChatGPT with all its AI and its, all the stuff that it knows, still skipped over the individual that it has to start with if that relationship's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
Show me a relationship that is healthy, and I will show you at least, I won't show you two completely healthy people. I will show you two people that are committed on some level to growing as humans or as Christians or whatever their distinction is. That commitment to growth and to health has led that relationship to being healthy. Show me a relationship that is falling apart, whether it's friendship, whether it's people you work with, whether it's a marriage, whatever it is. I will show you two people that have not yet committed to their own health, but are definitely committed to the other person getting healthy.
Yes.
They want the other. If only the other person would fix what's wrong with them, then everything would be fine. But the problem is we don't realize that the people that we're in a relationship with feel the exact same way about us. They're waiting on us to get our crap together while we're waiting on them to get their crap together. All the while we're focused on them, they're focused on us. Nobody's focused on themselves, so nobody's actually getting healthy to have these healthy relationships. So before, like the number one answer on ChatGPT and Facebook was communication. Well, communication is useless if you're communicating to someone that hates themselves.
Yeah.
It just is. Communication is useless if you're communicating to someone that's addicted to something that they will not tell you about.
Right.
What good does all the communication in the world do if you're in a relationship with a narcissist? It's communication only serves the relationship once the people in the relationship are healthy. It's the same thing with any of the other ones. Trust was a big one that came up on both lists. Well, trust is useless in a relationship that the people aren't healthy because you'll never trust an unhealthy person. You will never look at someone that is causing all this relational distress in your relationship with full trust. Because you know, man, they could go off the deep end at any second right now. Or, man, it feels like they're always hiding something from me, and it will always diminish that trust. So trust doesn't appear in unhealthy relationships because the people are unhealthy. So our focus is always on the other people, and this is why Jesus said, don't judge or you too will be judged. By the same standard that you judge others is the standard that they will judge you by. Meaning, it doesn't mean that you don't judge others. It meant that if you're going to hold other people to unreasonable standards, don't be shocked when they hold you to unreasonable standards.
Right.
And the way that you deal with not doing that is don't focus on the speck of sawdust in their eye. Focus on the plank in your own eye.
Yeah.
First, take that out, and then you will get into a position where you can help someone else.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, for me, I need to get physically healthy. I need to.
too.
I know that's one of those things.
Yes.
How ridiculous would it be for me to see you at the mall and try to give you fitness advice? It would be ridiculous.
All right.
You'd go, whoa, wait a second there. You need to get yourself in order first
Yeah.
before you try to tell me how to get myself in order. That's what it really looks like whenever, if you're in a marriage with kids, one person will be like, man, you really yell at the kids a lot. And you go, yeah, do you not actually see that you do the same thing?
Yeah.
And they're and truthfully, in all honesty, they are oblivious to the fact that they do the same thing. I read one time when I was preaching Matthew 7 a long time ago, and one of the commentaries that I was using said, one of the things to be aware of in this passage is that the choice of words is sawdust and plank, which means that there's a good chance that whatever that the sawdust is made from the same thing as the plank, which means that thing that you're pointing out in that other person bothers you so much because it's actually it bothers.
Yeah, it's a reflection of what you.
With.
Yeah.
So like you will see my spouse yells at our kids. And the reason that bothers you is because you know inherently that you do the same thing, but yet you're a little bit blind to that. Or you want to say, well, when kind of that point that I made, we judge others by their actions, judge ourselves on our intent. So we go, well, they yell at the kids, they're in the wrong. When I yell at the kids, I have a good reason why I do it. So I give myself a pass, and I don't deal with my plank, but their sawdust is driving me insane. And so all healthy relationships start with healthy people. Any of the other relational advice that you get will always come up short in fully fixing the issue if you don't start with you. This is one of the reasons I'm a SYMBIS certified marriage counselor, pre-marriage and marriage counseling. One of the reasons why SYMBIS, what happens is the couple will take an assessment. It will give me a report, and myself and Megan will normally walk through this with them. The vast majority of that assessment is personality assessment and finding out how you are naturally wired.
Yeah.
Because it's focused on, hey, the more that I know me, then the more, like, it's not focused on how do we help you communicate better? How do we, it's like, it's all self-discovery. So that way you're learning about yourself, but your partner is learning about you, and then you're able to figure out, oh, these are the areas that really need. And so it's not just, hey, here's 5 steps to communicate better. This will fix your marriage. Like, no, if you will just become a healthier person in whatever area that you struggle in, then your relationship will get better.
Yeah.
And that's our starting point in this series.
Absolutely. And so from that passage in Matthew 7, you took the word planks and you used the letters to come up with words and things that really are what our planks are. Yeah. And so you went through past, lies, addictions, neglect, knowledge, and sin. Yeah. And all of these things really are what can create that distance between you, yourself, and others. They're all things that really you need to take the work to get better and fix. Just, we had our group last night, and talking through some of these things, we're like, really, it all does tie in together, and why it is so important to fix these things. Because as you were saying, like, better communication, well, that doesn't really help me if I have past issues that I haven't healed from or worked through.
Yeah.
that helps me overcome some of those things. Like, because of the chaos and trauma that I experienced as a kid, I am pretty adverse to conflict. Like, I don't like to bring up conflict because I dealt with that in a very negative, bad way as a child. And so I'm prone to like want to just shut down and not talk about it at all. That doesn't help, right? But so that's why like all of this really matters so much. And you talked through one of the things that you said that I thought was really good that I want us to dig into, because I think that all of these things will keep us from doing this, but you really focused in on it on lies. Was you said that when you lie in relationships, you forfeit real intimacy and trust because you don't let them know the real you. I think past traumas and things can also do that, like the addictions that you have that you hide.
Yes.
Also are the same way. You're hiding your true self. And I think that's why Symbis does work great, because you do get to know your true self, right?
As long as you don't lie during the process, yes.
Exactly. And so I think all of these things really do tie into knowing you and making you better.
Yeah, I don't know how many people realize, like, when we say intimacy in relationships, normally our mind immediately goes to sex.
Right.
Which, we're going to talk about that in this series. 'Cause that is definitely a form of intimacy. Like, but the physical act of sex is mimicking what should be happening emotionally in relationships.
Yeah.
So where you're bearing yourself and coming together. Whenever you're having sex, two people are naked, you're not hiding anything.
Right.
It's meant to mimic what we're supposed to be doing emotionally. Right. And what happens is whenever we're lying, we're keeping part of our self hidden and undisclosed. So there's no way that we can have true intimacy whenever there's portions of our life that are off limits to our friends or to our spouse. Because what happens, you will always, you will sabotage the relationship to hide your secret. But it's kind of like the gossip thing. Like, if you gossip about other people to me, just know I don't trust you. Even though I'm the one that you confided in, what that's telling me is that if you will gossip about them to me, you will gossip about me to them. The same thing goes for lies. If you're concealing things in your relationships, you're also inherently telling yourself that you probably believe that they are doing that also, which is robbing both of you of true intimacy, to where you can never really get to know each other at the deepest soul level in a relationship, because you're more concerned with your own secrets than you are just coming clean and hashing things out.
Yeah, and regardless of the reason, because I think sometimes we're like, oh, well, I'll build walls and wait until I know I can trust them, because I've had people, break that trust. I've had people betray me. I've had people leave me. I've had whatever. And so regardless of what the intent behind it, whether it's shame because of something that you're not supposed to be doing, or because of almost like a self-preservation method that you have created.
Yep.
All of those things, like if you're doing it out of that, then that should be a key sign of, okay, I need to go and work through this, so that way I can go into a relationship from the beginning of not having that idea or that preconceived notion because of the past, but also like regardless of whether it's that or whether it's out of shame, it still keeps you from having that, like, the relationship as what it should be or could be in its best form.
It does. Like, I had a place in the sermon where I planned on telling a personal story, but just there was way too much content for the amount of time that I had. But I remember in regards to, there was something when Megan and I were dating, I had done something that was detrimental to our relationship. And I came about... like 75, maybe 65% clean on it and open and honest about it, to where our relationship could continue to move forward. But I had decided that there were details about the situation that I wanted to withhold. That secret, until I finally dealt with it, really, Megan didn't know. but it really greatly impacted our relationship until the point where there was one instance. At this point, Megan and I were married, and I was in ministry, and so I was at a ministry conference, and I was listening to Andy Stanley talk, and he was talking about how whatever you're keeping from the people that you're in relationship with, it's never going to allow the relationship to get where it needs to go. And so I felt God speak in that moment. He goes, hey, you need to come clean with the last 25%. Even though it was years ago, everything is already done and gone. You're married, you're in ministry, you're not the same person that you were when that happened. You've been keeping something, and you need to go and share it. And from that moment on, I was able to be completely open and honest with Megan about not just that, but about anything that ever happened, because I knew, hey, we made it through that. Because the lie that you're always told by the enemy is that if you tell the truth, everything's going to crumble. If you keep the lie, you can keep everything moving forward. It's really not the case. When you tell the truth, it finally sets you free to be able to actually have a true intimate relationship with somebody else. When you keep that lie, you might be able to maintain the relationship, but you cannot maintain the health of the relationship because it'll backfire every single time. And so, again, if you're keeping secrets, if there's parts of your life that your spouse, your friends don't know about, it's ultimately going to sabotage that relationship. And again, maybe you're going, well, my relationships right now aren't terrible. You might be able to have some semblance of a normal relationship, but I'm just saying it'll never be all that it was designed or created to be.
Right.
Like, it'll never get to that next level. Like, you're kind of settling for sometimes good enough instead of great, which is a sad way to live life.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I had a similar story, but it wasn't because of something done to me. It was, or done that I did. It was something done to me. Like before Anthony and I got married, I mean, we were engaged. We were pretty close to our wedding, just months away, actually. And I had not shared with him about the abuse and trauma that I experienced because I believed the lie, and because of the abandonment that happened, most everyone that I had told and confided in were no longer in my life. In one way or another, they either had, kind of used it against me or just completely abandoned me from that. Like, it was too much for them. And so I was terrified to tell him, but I knew without a doubt, I was like, I can't go into this marriage and not share this with him. Yeah. And I remember it was after church on a Sunday morning. We weren't living together. It was before our marriage, and we were going to his apartment afterwards to hang out or whatever after lunch, and before I had to go back to Huntington. And I remember just losing it on the drive home. And I was like, when we get to your apartment, I have to talk to you. And sharing it with him. And none of the thoughts that I had of what he was going to do happened. And the way that he responded to me in that moment was a way that I could have never imagined. It was beautiful and awesome, and part of the reason why I love him so much. Yeah. But all those things that I thought might happen when I revealed all that to him did not happen. And that has been something that was super healing in the moment too, to realize, there are people that I can share this with, that it's okay. And so I think that sometimes, even if it's not something you've done, but something that's happened to you, we have those lies that we do tell ourselves that keep us from doing that because we think this will happen. And I think just spending time, finding that at least one person that you can go to and share that with to unpack that. And sometimes that does need to be somebody who is a licensed therapist or counselor, to where there's confidentiality in that. Yeah. Sometimes if you don't have that, but also sometimes it's you need to go to that because they're going to give you what you need to fully, truly heal from all of that. And I know there was a question, we went to a marriage conference a couple weeks ago, and there was one question that when we were going through our little unpacking or whatever, it said, what would you have done before you got married to make your marriage better? And I immediately said, go to counseling before our marriage. I didn't go to counseling before our marriage to work through all my past trauma and abuse and things that I'd gone through. And there was a key moment in the middle of the marriage where some stuff triggered me and it all came back up, and stuff that I thought I'd healed from, I hadn't actually healed from. I just buried it way down deep. And it was like, no, you actually need to go see somebody and fully work through this. And I think that is key for anyone. If you have stuff, and I think we all do, maybe not at the level of some others, but we all have stuff. I think going and working through those things is so incredibly important for any of your relationships, because it will cause you to keep those barriers up, to keep people at arm's length, and never really truly get to that place where you're open and vulnerable.
And I'll just, to close that up, if you are in a relationship with someone that you cannot be your realest, most truthful, honest self, because they're going to walk out on you or they're going to use it against you, like that was your fear. I tell him this, what if he responds like this, because other people have. That will tell you that whether or not you're in the right relationships. Because if somebody will use your vulnerability and your transparency against you, they are not the type of people that you want in your life whatsoever. If they will use your openness as a weapon against you, you're dealing with someone incredibly toxic that absolutely has to be removed from your life. People that do that, I mean, it's wicked. It's wicked when they do that. I'm not saying if you have a secret, you come clean about something that you did, you hurt somebody else. There may be ramifications for that. I'm saying if you're being open and honest about something that's happened to you or something in your past, and you feel like you always have to hide that, and then those people would turn around and use that against you, it's pure wickedness. You cannot have that in your life. You have to have someone, again, that you can be your realest, most honest self with. This is one of the things. And again, we are getting into physical intimacy later on in this series, because I think it's a really big issue. This is one of the reasons why the Bible is so conservative when it comes to its view of sex, because you're not meant to get to that level of intimacy with just anybody and everybody. It's something sacred almost going on when you take what's normally covered up and completely bare it to somebody else. It's not you're not just supposed to do that to people that you meet on an app. It's just not meant to do that. That scars you in a way that you gave away something that was meant to be special in a very non-special way. It's so scarring. And it's the same thing, like in the emotional intimacy is the reason why it's so difficult is because you can't do it with absolutely everybody. Some people can't handle it. Some people aren't the right people for you to do that with. But either way, intimacy is the name of the game. And when you walk around with planks in your eye, all of these hold people at arm's length, which means you can never have true intimacy. You can never truly know them. They can never truly know you. And you guys, it's impossible to have a healthy relationship with people that are not committed to health in the different areas that they're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with that, we will close this out. I would say a very good next step for you is to take some time to work on the knowledge plank and really take some time to self-reflect and bring about some of that self-awareness and see what your next step really is to help deal with some of these planks to help get you in the healthiest place you can be, so that way you can have better, healthier relationships. But we'll be right back here again next week with another extra point for you with more practical next steps for your relationships.
Thanks for tuning in to The Extra Point. Be sure to subscribe to the Southridge Church podcast and tune in every Wednesday for another episode of The Extra Point.